Hi, this is Chase Masterson, and you're listening to Mark Who 42. How cool is that?
Welcome to Mark Who 42, coming to you from a galaxy far, far away. Wait, sorry, wrong. Oh man, that was the wrong franchise. Coming to you from Deep Space Station K7. There we go. That's much better. I'm your host, Eduardo M. Freyre, and with me today is my number
Vicky
one.
Jakubowski.
Yep, Vicky Jakubowski. Well, since you're my number one, should I just call you Una the entire time?
Go for it, darling. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
That
now,
puts me in great company.
Okay. Now, you're not a genetically enhanced human, right?
Can I plead the fifth?
Okay, but if
Don't turn me in, honey. Come on. Be cool.
I didn't hear a thing. So, as everybody can guess from our little banter, we're going to be talking some Star Trek today, but not just any Star Trek. We're going to be talking about the just recently completed Strange New Worlds Season 1. Yep, cue some Alexander Courage right now. But yeah, for those of you who've been living on a rock or stuck in a colony without Federation help, Strange New Worlds was the latest Star Trek spin-off. In this particular case, it deals with the Enterprise under Captain Pike. Something that we only saw, once?
Yep,
well,
just once.
Yeah, technically twice.
Technically 3 times. Well, because the Cage was 2 episodes.
Well, okay. Well, the Cage. Okay, there was the Cage pilot. They then did the Menagerie. They did the Menagerie, which had took scenes from the Cage, interspliced with Kirk on with Spock's trial.
Pike on trial. Oh yeah, Spock.
It was Spock on trial. Yeah, Spock on trial. And then we kind of saw Pike's Enterprise in the Kelvin timeline.
Well, I was just thinking that between the Menagerie and the Cage, we had 3 episodes in the original series where we've got Captain Pike as Captain Pike.
Yeah. Yep. And in the Menagerie, we also had Captain Pike as the weird beepy wheelchair guy.
Yes.
Beep, beep.
I thought that was the coolest wheelchair in the world, except that, he couldn't talk. That was bad.
Yeah,
I could handle it except for the not talking bit.
Well,
we all know that me not talking would be bad.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that if the button gets stuck, the beep button, it's like then communicate because he's just basically slack jawed in there, so it's not like he can raise a hand and be like no, this is broken.
No,
it'll just be like beep, beep, beep.
Once for yes and twice for no.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's not good enough communicating for me. Thank you, though.
Yeah. Well, not again, and not to mention if the button gets stuck and he's beeping like 7 times, and everybody's like, "Wait, what? Wait, what? Are you, Chris? What are you talking about? What's the matter? Wait, you're beeping 5 times. Is that a yes or a no?"
I'm just picturing a droid running wild in circles and beeping all up and down of the Enterprise. I'm sorry, that was wildly inappropriate. Back to our topic.
Okay. Back. But yeah, Strange New Worlds. This of course takes place after Discovery Season 2.
Correct.
So, because they don't go heavily into the events of Discovery Season 2, but they happened. And
right,
I think
because
Spock,
we can't talk about it. It's still classified.
Yep.
And very few people are read it.
Yeah, and I think Spock kind of he does like an offhand mention of Michael Burnham. But
it's just enough that it reminds you back to, oh yeah, that's right, we got these characters from that. And so there's a continuity going on. But then we're going off onto, well, all new worlds. And we kind of finally get to see what was basically just hinted at in the original series with the original pilot. And what would it be like if Captain Pike was the captain of the Enterprise? And what would that look like?
Yep. And you know what? One thing I did like about this series is that we got a return of kind of standalone episodes.
You know, we got bit of both. We had
a little, we had subplots that kind of continue, but it wasn't something where, like, for example, you could have not seen an episode, and you're not like the episode with the pirates.
Mm-hmm.
You could have not seen that episode, but you wouldn't be lost. It wouldn't be like there was a major plot point that dropped in there, and you're like, uh-oh. Now I'm totally confused.
I highly recommend watching The Ready Room with Will Wheaton for all these new Star Trek series. He's phenomenal, and he brings the writers and the producers and the actors on, and he talks to them. And one of the things that the showrunner was talking about was he wanted to kind of marry the two of the original series where you had it all episodic.
Yep.
And then as we move forward in Star Trek series, where it becomes more of everything's a story arc and things make sense, parts of Picard season 2 make sense if you watch several episodes of The Next Generation. And if you don't have that, some of that may not make sense to you. So he wanted to kind of marry the two and have story arcs that flow through episode to episode. But at the same time, each one also encapsulated a story that did not necessarily have to keep going. You're absolutely right. You did not have to watch episode 2 to watch episode 3. There might be a few plot points for individual cast members that may not make the most sense to you. But other than that, you can watch it, enjoy it, and truly have a blast.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. And then of course, in the show itself, interesting that the cast is pretty much all brand new, with like a couple of returning champions, so to speak. For one thing, we get more of number one, Una, who didn't get, thanks to the cage not being the go-to Trek pilot, hadn't gotten much characterization. But then we had number one show up in a couple of episodes during Discovery season 2, and then now we get more of her character, Christine, young Christine Chapel.
Yes.
We got Dr. Mbenga, which it's like, wow, taking a one-shot character that we had in the original series and then expanding his role. Although, because it's like, I do remember the cast that we had for the cage.
Yes.
So it's interesting that we don't, that they're not there anymore, that they got rotated out.
Well, but some of them maybe not. Because there are some characters that don't have names and didn't have them in the cage, but there's, miscellaneous other characters around the bridge that we don't have specific names for, miscellaneous bridge crew that show up in this episode or that episode, because maybe they're rotating the same way that the cadets are rotating. Now that we know that the cadets, like Uhura, they go in, they work on a spaceship, and they rotate. It almost like a doctor's rotation. of, work in this department, this department, this department. And so maybe what we saw in the cage were people rotating onto the bridge.
That's a good point. One thing that's interesting is I know that so in the cage, the chief medical officer was this guy named Philip Boyce.
Yeah.
Who also who was also a bartender of sorts. Then we have Mbenga for Strange New Worlds, and I know that when Kirk took command of the Enterprise, like the second pilot, the one that introduced us to Kirk's crew, instead of McCoy, there was a gentleman by the name of Mark Piper. So it kind of makes me wonder.
Doctors don't last very long.
Despite the fact that we saw Next Gen with the Next Gen group and Deep Space Nine, and their doctors seem to have stuck around.
In the early years, there just wasn't the best of.
But I just kind of wonder. Well, that makes me wonder: are we going to see an episode? If Strange New Worlds continues, are we going to see an episode where Mbenga's like, you know what, the heck with this, I'm retiring. And then in comes Piper. Or
you do kind of wonder what's going to be the movement, because in the original series, you've got a couple of these one-off characters that are there and they're not, and sometimes it's because of things going on behind the scenes. And sometimes it's just, I don't know, maybe people signed up for one episode and they just didn't think it was going to last. And here we have kind of an opposite thing going on. And, you now have, 6 decades of Star Trek. So when they're starting Strange New Worlds and they're creating the characters and everything else that they want to do, the new characters, the old characters, I feel like they can play around a little bit because, we don't have a lot of information. And how much time passed between when Pike retires and Kirk takes over? It's a little fuzzy in the original series.
Yeah, well, we know, okay, I want to say that official materials, I know the official materials state that Pike had Pike served as captain of the Enterprise for 11 years, which would be 2 5-year missions, and then like 1 year where I guess the Enterprise was in space dock getting refit.
Yeah, something
so
like that.
we know, and we know that this is post Cage. Because what's her face, the survivor lady from the Cage had showed up in Discovery.
Yes.
So right now, we know that the Cage has already happened. So it is probably I'm gonna say maybe like Pike's second year. I would say probably like maybe even early in.
Yeah.
So we know,
and of course, in the original Star Trek, they weren't thinking this deeply when we did the original Star Trek.
Yeah, no,
for a variety of reasons. And so it is kind of interesting. And I've watched some interviews with people behind the scenes and some of the actors. And one of the things that I definitely feel that there was in the undercurrent of this whole thing was preserving what's been done, not rewriting, not doing an alternate timeline, but giving us more depth that we didn't get in the original series.
Yeah.
And how far they're going to take Strange New Worlds, don't know. We know they've agreed to do a second season. And I'm really excited because, we haven't even said this yet, but I absolutely loved this series.
Oh yeah.
And
No,
I think
definitely.
It's it's one of those things where we kind of just jumped right into it. But let's be honest, this was amazing. You had new cast with old names, you had new names, you had names that harken back to other things. Can I just tell you how much I loved the intermarrying? You had foreshadowing of other episodes from the original series. You had I mean, it felt like it was made by fans for fans and took us to a whole nother level.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I do, and again, the marriage, the fact that we had subplots that did cross off into other episodes, but you still had standalone was just perfect. It was perfect because
they did a fabulous job.
It is literally having your cake and eating it too. Having this much more complex world, but you don't have to worry about, like if you fell asleep in front of the TV and you missed the last 10 minutes of, let's say, episode 5. You don't have to worry about.
I would recommend going back and watching it anyway. But...
But I'm saying it's like you don't have to have the added stress of like, oh, I got to go back and I got to finish off episode 5 because it's Thursday, episode 6 just dropped. I don't want to be confused. I mean, you may, it's like the worst that could happen is, for example, we had the subplot with Mbenga's daughter.
Yes.
And we had an episode where it resolved. It's like the worst that could happen is like an episode or two after you could have a reference to Mbenga saying, they say, "Hey Doc, are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm fine. I miss my daughter, but I'm fine." Okay, you might, if you didn't catch the end of the episode, you might be like, "Uh-oh, did something happen to her?" But it's not like that was just how do I put this? It wasn't something where it's so integral to the plot that it's like, oh, crud, I just came into an episode and now I'm totally lost. And I also, by the way, one thing I got to give credit for to this, especially because we're in the age of the internet and how hard it is to keep a secret.
Yes.
The Gorn episode.
Oh,
I did not see the end coming. I was like, wait, what?
Yes.
What? I was just like, wait a minute.
That the actor Bruce Horrick knew from the moment he was hired. He was the only one who knew. He was told that this was going to happen. And yes, okay, we probably should have said this at the beginning. Spoilers.
Yeah.
So it just, when Hemmer dies, that is oh my God, not only was that an amazing death, and you didn't want it because you didn't want that character to go away, because you fall in love with that character like all the others.
Oh yeah.
You fall in love with this character. And I have to say, kudos to this actor for keeping his mouth shut and not even telling the other actors.
And kudos to the production for managed to keeping a lid on it. Because again, this is one of the things about the internet age, is that it's really hard to pull a surprise because it's one of those things where, like, for example, let's say I'm playing a main character on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and then suddenly I get like a starring role in a sitcom for CBS. Then everybody's like, well, wait a minute, like all of a sudden people are like, wait, whoa, hold on a sec,
someone
if
must
he's
be
on
dying.
this must be, I guess he's going to be dying or something's going to happen to take him off the board. The fact that we didn't get any of those little red flags, or maybe we should just call it red shirt flags. Oh yeah, I went there.
Nice one, babe. Nice
we didn't get one of those little, one of those things going off where it's like, wait a minute, this is the guy who plays Hemmer. What is he doing? What is he doing
honest,
being a new character
every
on,
single one of these characters has a secret.
Yeah.
If you think about it, Hemmer's going to die.
Yep.
Mbongo has a daughter that
Yep.
he's been keeping in the buffer.
Yep.
Uhura has not decided if she's going to stay with Starfleet. Una,
Well, we know the answer, but yeah.
well, yeah, we know now.
Yeah, we
But
know that. Yeah.
you know, Una is
Yeah.
illegal.
Yeah.
You know, Lon is a Noonien Singh.
Yep.
Nurse Chapel's got the hot for Spock. Okay, yeah, we already knew that.
Well, we already know, but it was nice to see the genesis of that.
Yes. And Christopher Pike knows how he's going to die.
Yeah.
And even Spock, there's those nuances with him, with T'Pring and Nurse Chapel, and a momentary glimpse he gives us of his clear sorrow for missing his sister.
Yep. Well, and not to mention the fact that
just
at
a
one.
moment.
Oh yeah, and then we also have that moment, after Hemmer's passing,
Yes.
where excuse the expression, he drops his shields.
Yes.
When he punched that.
Oh my God.
When he punched
Looking
that
at the
wall.
Vulcan anger.
Yeah, when he punched that wall, I was just like, whoa, wait a minute. Dang.
Yes.
Whoa. This is a side we don't see. We don't see unless it's Pon Far time.
Oh, I know. That was amazing and scary and cool and everything you could possibly think of. I have to credit each and every one of these actors. So many of them are relative unknowns out there in the universe. They're very early in their careers, and I can't imagine now anyone else in those roles.
Yeah. Well,
I think the casting was phenomenal.
Oh yeah. The other thing I like is that, since most of the cast is not known like outside of this as like being big names, one of the things I like about it is that it allows them to be, it's not like, oh, hey, here's Hugh Jackman as Picard,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's we can actually see this and say, oh, it's the character. It's not so and so playing the character. Which I like that. It's like yeah, it's cool seeing big name actors in a role, but sometimes I like it when they get somebody who's relatively unknown, because then you get to enjoy the character, not this is so and so's take on the character.
Right. I don't feel like anyone was copying. And I noticed that with Ethan Peck as
Spock.
Yeah. Even in Discovery. When he first appeared in Discovery, I was like, okay, well, let's see. Because I'm very protective of Spock. Spock, of course, being my favorite character. And when Zachary Quinto played him in the Kelvin movies, I was like, okay, you won me over. Ethan Peck, I was like, let's see. And very quickly, I fell in love with him as Spock. And again, he's not playing Nimoy. He's not playing Zachary. He is playing Spock.
Yep. I think what also helped is that when he first got into the role, that Spock in Discovery was at a different place than we usually see him. So that kind of that enabled Peck to be able to make the role his own, not just okay, let's cover the same beats.
I agree. And it just I just have to give a shout out to Anson Mount. Here's a man who has been working through his career and was made for this role.
Yes.
I absolutely love him as Captain Pike. The humanity, the love, the everything. But of course, we're going to have to leave it at that because it's time for a break.
It's time for commercial. Commercial sign with more. It's time for commercial signs. But hey, we will definitely, we'll definitely be back. Definitely be back. More Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And you know what? We may even be, I don't know, let's see if we can get a special guest in here or something. Hopefully not a Gorn. because you know what? I don't need Gorn spit making me pregnant. Nope.
No, thank you.
Nope.
We'll be back with more of Mark Who 42's universe.
By the power of Grayskull, I command the drawbridge. Open!
The Powers of Grayskull series will cover every episode of all 4 Masters of the Universe cartoons. Join Optimus Solo and myself, TF2 and Mike, as we tell tales of Eternia, discover the myths of Etheria, become masters in space, and finally Masters of Grayskull. We'll have a commentary on the Secret of the Sword film, and a few other special episodes. You can find this 125-episode-long podcast in iTunes and on the web at geekcastradio.com. By the power and honor of Grayskull, we all have the power.
Hurry, Skeletor, hurry! I am hurrying, I'm hurrying!
You are listening to Mark Who 42's universe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Mark Who 42 here on SUBSPACE Radio and elsewhere on the internets. I'm your host for today, Eduardo M. Freyre, with Vicky Jakubowski, and actually, okay, what was that?
That was my sad, pathetic hi.
Okay, is there something we got to know about? Are you turning into Eeyore? Your entire talk.
No, I'm recovering from being Eeyore for the last couple of weeks. I'm fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was going to say, I mean, we've been talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and we've been having a good time of it, but, are you going to go and be like, yeah, I liked it. It was good.
Nope, I'm perking back up. I'm getting
okay,
Hang
good.
on. Little more Mountain Dew, I'll be fine.
Yeah, no, grab some more Mountain Dew. And in the meantime, while you're chugging down some Mountain Dew, I'm going to introduce. We've got a third in this conversation. A third person has come in to join this conversation, and you know what? It's somebody very special. It's Anson Mount. No, just kidding. Haha. Yeah, right. I wish we could get Anson.
Hi there, everyone.
Yeah. I wish we could get Anson Mount. I wish we could record this with him, like in the room, and he could be making. I hopefully he's
Actually,
as good a.
I'm Ethan Peck.
No, you're not.
Either one.
No, you're not. It's okay. That lame impression was because of our guest, Mark Baumgarten. Well, not really a guest.
How am I a guest? I'm the showrunner. How am I guest? Okay.
We decided to let you back on, honey.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I haven't been on.
we let you out of the box.
I haven't been doing the reviews for the past couple of weeks, so thank you for letting me back on my show. I appreciate
you
that.
let the inmates run the asylum.
I
honey.
know, that's kind of scary. That's kind of scary. But you know what? You are two of the best inmates I've ever had in my prison. Thank you.
And then if we really behave, he gives us the yellow pills to prevent us from screaming.
He's right. He does get the yellow pills.
Wow, we are so bad kids.
And then if I really behave, I get to go to the happy room.
Oh my God. This is why I haven't been here for the past few weeks, because I couldn't put up with it.
Nothing. Put up nothing. What happens is we end up scaring you so much you curl up in a ball and wonder why there's no benevolent creator being.
Pretty much. Okay. Why don't we get back
Anyway.
Why don't we get back to Star Trek Strange New World Season 1?
You know what? I do. Okay. Well, one thing I do want to bring up, and I kind of sort of, when I was introducing you, I brought this up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the character of Pike.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first off, you got to love that they kept going with that little subplot that was introduced in Star Trek Discovery,
Yes.
where Pike knows what is going to happen. He knows that he's going to be turning into the he's turning into the beep.
$10 million question, because when you know what's going to happen to you, what do you do? Do you try and prevent it? Can you prevent it? Is it a fixed time in history? What can you do? And as humans, we naturally want to survive.
Yeah.
Yep. What I do like, though, is that they introduce, they have that, and then they also have Pike. I love the whole thing where Pike has that kitchen in his quarters, and he
Oh
just
my
invites
gosh.
people over. That I love that, because that's such a great. First of all, I don't know how that hasn't been a character trait before, because we've had different cooks in the various shows. Like Riker does a little bit of cooking. Cisco's family runs a Creole restaurant in New Orleans. So it's like, how have we not had this before? You know,
I loved it. The first time I saw
yeah.
it, I was like, now there is a man who knows his way around a kitchen. So big point there. But then there's the open flame fireplace.
Oh, yeah.
You know what, Ed?
What?
Guys, can I say something? I think we have had this before, and in the Pike universe. You mentioned it in the first part. Dr. Boyce was a bartender. Why can't Captain Pike be a chef for
I'm not saying
restaurant like
what?
the Enterprise?
I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying that it's interesting. It's interesting. It's wild having the captain. You know, how does he talk shop with his bridge crew? It's like, hey, come over. I'm going to be making ribs. And it's like,
the way they say he invites other people from the crew from all ranks because he wants to really know how it's going. I mean, this is actually a great lesson in proper management, talking to your people, getting to know them on more than one level. And apparently he's an amazing chef.
Yes.
So,
yes.
He seems to be a totally amazing chef.
Asobuco.
Asobuco, which, and you gotta, hell, I wonder how, and I gotta love that at the beginning of one episode, when he has his whole kind of, captain's table type thing going on, that at one point he just goes to Spock. He's like, "Okay, can you take over the dishes?" And Spock's just like, "Okay." It's like, "Okay, all right." And there's Spock with the
dishes. Was awesome.
Yep. It's like, I just gotta love Spock with the apron. He's there doing the dishes. He turns around. It's like, well, what about this captain? It's like,
yes.
And some are eating.
Think about it. If you are, and when military personnel, and when they're on the ships and they're off on TDY or whatever it is that's going on, you really do have these sorts of things happening. Maybe it's around a trench, maybe it's around a campfire, maybe it's on a boat, but it's a really cool aspect that you get to see them more as people, which let's be honest, in the original series, it was I love the original series, but there were so many limitations, and this has suddenly made them so much more human.
Yeah,
and that's interesting you bring that up, because in the cage, Pike was not as mellow as he is now. He was kind of gruff, and I think what happened during the cage is what changed him into the personality that we get now. That's
also, if you remember the cage, he was coming off a mission that didn't work.
Right.
A mission that had a lot of casualties. So he may still have been going through, the emotions of that. But here it's like, he's kind of mellowed out a little bit. What probably also helps is the fact that he, when Robert April came and said, "Hey, can you, come back to work?" He's had a chance to relax, be on his farm and just ride his horses. So a little bit.
Kind of cool. That was kind of cool that Robert April was in it.
The
original captain of the Enterprise.
Yeah, which by the way, actually, something that since we're on the subject, I know that there's been a little bit of controversy among the fandom at the fact that he was recast and that they made him African American. I know that some people are just like, well, no, because why couldn't they get somebody who looks like Gene Roddenberry? Because I know that originally the only image that we had of Robert April was Roddenberry wearing a Trek uniform.
Yeah.
Wasn't it in a book? Wasn't there
I think it's been used. It's been used in it's been used in the encyclopedias and the
Gotcha.
Star Trek chronology.
Yeah.
I know that the animated series had Robert April, and they did use the encyclopedia. You know, they did use like that still shot as their basis. But honestly, my thing is, okay, yeah, that's weird, and okay, maybe it requires a little bit of you know, not wibbly wobbly timey wimey, but you know, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
You know, well, it does require, you know, it requires a little bit, you know, I mean, okay, yeah, we may have to, you know, find a way around it, you know, but honestly, I'm okay, you know, I'm fine with it, you know, especially because we finally get to see Robert April, like,
right,
you know, we get to see him, interact. He's not just something off to the side that everybody knows about, but you know, we don't get to see. You know, especially because, and it's funny, you know, to bring up the animated series, that is just such a weird, like, space in Trek continuity, you know, the animated series, that having somebody playing him in live action, now, you know, it's cemented. Now he's completely cemented. It's not just this authorial intent type of thing, you know, which to me is like, okay, I love it, because now it's like, okay, now we definitively have Robert April. You know, there's no room now for somebody saying, no, Pike has always been the first captain of the Enterprise. You know, now that's not a thing.
No.
And I like that. Because,
let's be honest, if and any of these characters, if they exactly looked like the very first actor who portrayed that character, because some of them, you know, like Captain Pike, I mean, what are we on? Isn't Anson Mount the fourth or fifth actor to portray him?
Around there. You'll have to give me a second to do some mathing. But yeah, I mean, we had
maybe third,
like like fourth, like around four, because there's Jeffrey Hunter, there's the one who played Pike in the Menagerie.
Yeah.
There's Bruce Greenwood in the Kelvin timeline.
Okay,
so it's about four. Yeah, it's about four. Yeah.
So, you know,
and by the way, I'm keeping it at 4. I don't want to hear anybody saying, well, no, we're not going to count the Kelvin timeline. It's Trek. We're counting it. It's an alternate universe. We're counting it.
I was actually thinking that when I said 3, but it does exist. It does exist.
Yeah. Yes. Like, we're not not starting that.
Because Leonard Nimoy went from one to the other, so it bridges the two.
Yeah, exactly. And they even said that we've had that twice. So.
Someone, it's like what we talked about in the first segment. We didn't want to see people playing, you know, actor X playing character Y. We wanted to see Anson Mount as Captain Pike. And I think he did a phenomenal job.
Oh yeah, and hey, the poor guy actually got to have like lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, you know, his last genre-esque role was Black Bolt in the Inhumans, and the entire time, and it's like he might be able to say 1 or 2 lines, but then it's like, you know, we're not gonna poor guy's not gonna, you know, be able to say anything.
Hey, I will say that he was one of the few things I liked about the Inhumans. So he has definitely surprised me as an actor and his abilities.
Oh,
so
yeah, no,
I will
definitely
follow him as Captain Pike all day long, and I can't wait to see more of him as Captain Pike. I mean, there's just this human quality.
Yes.
And I feel that about all of them, where, you know, we go through crap in our lives. We have our ups, we have our downs. And I really loved just how nuanced Captain Pike was. Uhura, Una, I mean, all these characters have depth, and I felt for all of them. You know, we were talking about how much, you know, Hemmer's death just killed us. And it's because we fell in love with these characters.
Yep.
And I love their portrayals. And I just have to say this because you guys know how much I love old movies. When I found out Ethan Peck was the grandson of Gregory Peck, I was like, total fangirl. Yes.
You know what? I did not know that.
Sorry,
I actually did not know that.
I did not know that either, but that's
I didn't
cool.
know that either. Yeah.
That's very cool.
So it's one of those things that it's like, oh, but he's a very good actor in his own right, regardless of who his parentage is. I don't know. And most of the time in the show, you know, like there'll be one character you're like, they could have done better casting.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't name a character that I would like to see someone different in.
No.
I feel
right.
like they
No.
embodied it. And that's why it was so good. And on a non-person note, one thing I really wanted to bring up, because I was watching the Ready Rooms with Will Wheaton and some of the other stuff out there, the practical effects that they did in this shoot is one of the reasons I think that it was so believable. They had puppetry. The Gorns were puppets.
Oh,
The Gorns were puppets.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm sorry, what? The only CGI they had to do in those scenes was to remove the puppeteers. But they were even talking about some of the in-shot special effects they would do with projections. I mean, we all remember the old movies where they'd be driving in a car and you had the projection of whatever city they were in behind them, and it just looked absolutely hokey even back in 1939.
Right.
But this, they have projections. So some of the, like when you're in engineering and you've got these immense, huge sets, they actually had huge physical sets and paintings that were lit, and they had screens, and it was amazing. I saw some of the behind the scenes stuff as they were shooting it with all that going on behind them, and I was like, wow, that's taking it to a whole new level. Because now you're using the practical. You're still using the movie magic, but you're using it in what I think is a better way. And because of that, I think it made everything richer. It made everything even more believable because you could see it in the actor's eyes. They weren't playing to a green screen. And I just wanted to give huge kudos to everyone in the behind the scenes of Strange New Worlds and the amazing things that they have done. And I feel like they have taken TV shows to a whole new level, and I want to see more.
Yep. And you know what? I want to also call out as far as like great performances.
Yeah.
I want to give like just a special shout out as far as guests.
Here we go. Yep.
Jesse James Keitel as Angel. Oh, she, well, first off, this came out that I think isn't Keitel, if I remember correctly, isn't Keitel trans?
I believe so.
Think
Yeah.
so.
And here's the thing. It was one of those things where I didn't realize it until after the episode. Because I saw articles and stuff, and it's like, oh, all about this. And I'm just like, I thought that she made a great villain. She was, and honestly, the fact that Angel, runs off at the end of the episode, I'm like, oh, this means more of Jesse James Keitel, and I'm here for it. Yeah, bring them back.
And Cybok.
And Well,
That's going to
yeah,
be cool.
that
That
was-
was actually
you know-
that was a cool revelation right there.
that was cool. Although, to be honest, I'm hoping that if they do have Cybok join Angel
Yeah.
when she makes an appearance, I really hope that, I hope they do as good a job with
Mhm.
that as they did with Vader and Obi-Wan
Yeah.
in the Obi-Wan series, because
Yeah.
that is one of those things that's very tricky, and you kind of want to make sure doesn't, that's one of those things where you got to be careful as far as continuity is concerned, not to have to do too much hand waving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the thing I'm thinking of is one of the things I'm thinking of is what's it called? I'm thinking what? Oh, dang! I had a thought. Oh yeah, I'm thinking about the show Star Trek Enterprise,
Yes.
and how they had a Ferengi episode.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was just they had an episode with the Ferengi, and then it was just since we didn't use the word Ferengi, that's okay. It doesn't step on the toes of the it doesn't step on the toes of next gen,
Or the
Yeah.
Borg episode.
or the fact. Yeah, there you go. You know what? Yeah, that one too.
However,
That one too.
However,
Yeah.
because of First Contact, the Borg had something to do with Earth. So, and in fact, those two Borg that were in the Borg episode were probably Borg from First Contact going back to tell the Hive that the Earth is there. So
Well,
it
yeah.
did fit.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
did
it-
fit.
Okay, it did fit. It did fit. It did fit. It was a very weird fit. But what I'm saying is, for example, the Ferengi episode
Yeah, I
of
do see what
Starship
you're
Enterprise,
saying.
that's where I have the issue, because it requires a little bit of hand waving and being
Right.
like, well, they didn't say the word Ferengi, so it
So
still
they
counts.
don't know it's Ferengi, so they
Yeah,
never
exact-
met the Ferengi.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like one thing that actually wasn't like that though
hmm
is I got to point out the one thing. I know that we haven't spoken about episodes specifically. We haven't
True.
called out specific episodes. I mean, we've called out bits and pieces, but where I have to, I think one episode that we do have to talk about, in depth, is the season finale.
Oh God, yes.
That is just, I mean, first off, the fact that there was, I don't want to say a payoff to, I don't want to say a payoff, but the fact that they touched on a classic,
Yeah.
they touched on Pike's subplot,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is him just being very worried because he's got this hanging over his future.
hmm
But the fact that they took Balance of Terror
Season 1, episode
Yeah.
14.
and they used that as a springboard for dealing with this.
Yes.
I was like, this is genius. The minute,
It was.
well, first, I think one thing though is I love when Future Pike shows up and he's wearing the maroon
Yes!
outfits.
Yes.
I was just like, that is an awesome callback to
I was
classic
like,
Trek.
oh my God.
Not to mention, and I know, and I'm sure that those who worship at the feet of Roddenberry will be a little problematic with this. I love the
I
maroon
don't think
uniforms.
so.
I love the maroon uniforms. I know that apparently I think Roddenberry didn't like them at first because he was like, it's too militaristic.
Mhm.
But I love the maroon uniforms. I think they're really cool uniforms. And having them, having that show up with, alternate Future Pike, I was like, yeah, I'm here for it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, let's do the maroon uniforms.
Yeah.
So for me it was great seeing them. But yeah, I think once Pike, well, first of all, when Pike went into this reality,
hmm
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, there's, and it's like he started with the wedding. I was just like, oh no. No.
No.
And I want to know, well, first off, I love the callbacks to the original
Yes.
episode.
And there were so many, and they were done so well.
What I love is they had the Romulan commander doing the thing again of, in another life, we may have been friends.
Yeah.
I know.
To me, though, the thing that just blew my mind, and I was like, whoa, man, you went there, is when Pike is in, you probably know which scene I'm talking about, Vicky, I'm going to guess, which is when Pike is in the infirmary.
Yeah.
And he sees that the bride.
Yeah.
It's the bride instead of the groom.
The bride instead of the groom. I'm just like, man, that is such a dark callback. It's like, wow. And I got to feel sorry for them. Because it was I think it was Robert Tomlinson and Angela Martin. I got to feel sorry for them because it's like, is there any universe where they get a break? Is there any universe? It's like, it doesn't matter. Whoever's in charge of the Enterprise when they confront the Romulans, apparently somebody's got to die. It's like, man, that just sucks. That just sucks. Like, there's a part of me that would love to have like an alternate, have another alternate universe episode, and just have this thing where they get to actually have their wedding. Of course, you know what? I just thought of a great idea, and this would be just so twisted. This would be so twisted.
I'm scared.
I dare them.
They're both dead.
Dare them to do this. No. Oh, no. Worse. They do get married. They do actually manage to finish the wedding without either one dying. But where does this take place? The mirror universe.
Yeah.
Oh.
That the mirror universe is where they're able to get married and be happy. I dare someone right now.
I double dog dare
write that story. Write that story. I dare you. I dare you. I dare you to do a mirror universe story that shows that the two of them were able to get married. I dare you. I dare you.
To tell you that there were so many twists and turns in the finale. And they were definitely fabulous twists and turns. I loved every single one of them. But when it really comes down to, it's not so much that Pike himself will matter in the future. It's that they've got to have Spock. He has to do the reunification. He has to do, all those things that Spock does in the future has suddenly got so much weight and importance to the survival of the Federation. Yeah. And, Spock's life saves millions of lives on both sides.
Oh,
that was powerful.
I got to cut us there. We're giving everyone a reason to go to the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast on most podcast platforms and Geekcast Radio Network, Florida Geek Scene, and MarkWho42.com, because we haven't mentioned the big reveal. And we'll be talking about that and tons of other things about Star Trek Next Strange New Worlds. But we've got to go for all the people on Subspace Radio. Isn't that a shame, guys?
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Subspace Radio gives us a time limit. Sorry, nothing we can do about it.
So if you want to know a little more of what we thought about the big reveal in the season finale, because we haven't mentioned the name or anything about it, go to our podcast version of the show and we will talk all about it. Until then, so long for all you people at Subspace Radio. Listen to us next week. We've got a brand new show for you. Until then, bye. And for those listening elsewhere, stay tuned because we are going to have a great second part, a third part, actually. It's my second part, their third part. We'll be right back.
We'll be back with more of Mark Who 42's Universe.
Hello, geeks and geekettes. I'm Steve Megatron, and if you're looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of geeky topics, then check out Altered Geek. Altered Geek covers superheroes, Star Trek, pop culture, comics, film, television, animation, gaming, tech, and more. So check out Altered Geek and get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks every Friday on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, Blog Talk Radio, and the Geekcast Radio Network.
Welcome. We're still going on here on the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast. For those of you sticking around or just joining us from the SUBSPACE Radio, hi. Okay, Ed,
Hi.
you wanted to say something really important.
That was, you know what? By the way, that little hi, I love it because that to me feels like that kind of reminds me of Pike's introducing himself to that that warring alien nation in the first episode. He just beams in and he's like, hi. it's just hi there. It's just hi.
I aim to please.
Okay. where it's like and of course that's one of those things makes me think about other, like, if this was Picard, he'd have a bit more gravitas. Pike is just, yo, I'm one of the alien guys you guys are freaking out about. This is so nonchalant. It just makes me laugh. But anyway, we were talking about the season finale.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? There is one thing related to the season finale that we should talk about, which is
really?
Which is
who could we be talking about?
Not Doctor Who, because this is a different episode. Because your blatant obviousness. How can we do balance?
Tiberius Kirk.
Oh yes.
Yep. We had.
T.
I pity the fool who doesn't go to warp drive. Fool who doesn't have it working.
Yeah, I know. I was very happy.
We're facing the Klingons.
Yeah, there you go.
We're facing the Klingons. We need warp drive, Scotty.
I loved it when they revealed James Kirk.
I was very happy when the Farragut arrived and when they got to the Farragut, and that's who came on the view screen. I love it.
Oh yeah, and it was also great because it's like, since we're doing sort of a compare and contrast, where it's like, this is how Pike is handling things.
Right.
This is how Kirk handles it, in the future we know and love.
Yeah.
It was great that we had Kirk himself there.
Yes.
They didn't just...
To really kind of remind you how he felt and how he looked at things and what his choices were. And it just... I'm going to be honest. The first moment they showed him, I was just like... Okay, because he's it's kind of like Spock, Kirk and Spock. The rest of the actors, the rest of the characters, they're important, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you tend to be a little bit more picky when it comes to Kirk and Spock. And my initial reaction was, okay, he's not Shatner.
No.
He's not Pine.
Nope.
But then he starts acting like Kirk.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound anything like Kirk, but that's okay because he embodied Kirk. And at first, my split second, I was like, and then he won me over and I forgot that I had any trepidations.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And it's like, he may not have been as, Kirky-ish. He was not Shatner, he was not Kirky-ish. But we also have to remember that, it goes back to what you were saying, that, it's not about somebody trying to channel Shatner. It's about somebody trying to channel Kirk. And this is also, we have to remember that the Kirk we're dealing with here is not,
no, because
the James
this is a
Tiberius,
completely different
right, exactly.
timeline.
So it's like he might not even have the opportunity to be, the gung-ho guy that he is. I mean, because remember, he's in the, he's captain of the Farragut, the Federation flagship, the one that when it shows up in the neighborhood, everybody goes, oh, great, the Federation's really getting involved, is the Enterprise.
Right.
For better or for worse. Yeah, the Enterprise shows up, then it's like, oh, yep, the Enterprise is here, okay, so the Federation's really flexing their muscles. So somebody like that might not be able to, be as, cocky.
So
we don't know. That's one of the other things about these kind of alternate universe stories
Mhm.
is the whole butterfly effect of how does this
Right.
affect? How does this change things?
Right. I didn't realize that this is that Paul Wesley was the guy who was on the Vampire Diaries.
I know. I would have never guessed that.
I had
See,
no
I never
clue.
watched the Vampire Diaries.
I didn't either. I didn't either.
I didn't either.
I didn't either. So that's probably why I didn't know. But I mean, he was. But I did see him on 24. He was on 24 on several episodes of that. So I did see him
Was
there.
he?
But I
Yeah,
didn't
and
realize it was
did he
him.
have to deal with Jack Bauer saying, "There's no time"?
I think that he did.
I think
an
everyone
extremely
did
good...
on the show.
You're right of
He did
passage.
a really good job of, this is he's in command. He's of the Farragut. He's helping out, and you got to see this juxtaposition from, we know what he did when he was captain of the Enterprise in Balance of Terror. We know what his choices were. And we get to see not only him contrasting with Pike, but contrasting with the Kirk that we know in the original timeline. And it was very fascinating to me, which is why I think that this finale, it was even better, because I'm sitting there, twist, turn, and I love the cues they did with visuals, with the music. Oh my God, they throw in bits and pieces of some of the original music, the original Romulan theme, the original show theme. I am impressed in this episode, even more than the others, how they brought it all together. And as a fangirl, they made me so happy and still managed to surprise me and give me more information and make me go, no, it can't be over. We want more.
Yeah. I mean, I remember seeing that it was only 10 episodes, and then we get to episode 10, and it's like, no, it just started. The show just started. I mean, that I think is one big downside to streaming, is I noticed that a lot of times, shows have a very limited run, and it's like you get to episode 9 or episode 10 or episode 12, and it's like, and we're done, and you're like, no, we're not. No, I didn't say I was done.
Yeah.
Did I say I was done? I'm not done.
What was interesting, because the season actually did seem to end at episode 9. They had all the closings, all people leaving.
That's
and
true.
stuff.
You had a bunch
and
of
all the episodes were less than 50 minutes long. And then this episode comes at over an hour. And it just worked for me as a special, cool way out, and actually a cool way into the next season. But we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
Kirk.
Kirk. And then you gotta. I mean, the minute they said that George, the minute that we were introduced to George Samuel Kirk, I'm just like,
episode 1, Lieutenant Kirk.
Yeah, because and it's kind of weird because because it's like it does two things. It foreshadows two things, because if one Kirk's here, the other one can't be far behind. And then the other thing is, I'm just curious about this character's arc, because this is another character we know where he's going.
Yes.
We know that in the future he is going to be at that colony that gets infected, and he's going to die. So it's like, it would be interesting to see what is it Strange New Worlds does to kind of get him to that place.
And I want to say that I loved his Burt Reynolds mustache.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, it's great. It's great that it's great. Yeah, the Burt Reynolds mustache. Well, especially because remember, the only time we saw George Samuel Kirk was he was played by William Shatner with a mustache. It's like, how do we know it's George Samuel Kirk? Oh, because he looks just like Jim, but he's got the mustache. It's like, so is that Jim Kirk? No, it's not Jim Kirk, because he doesn't have a mustache.
Exactly.
It's obviously his brother. What are you talking about?
Of course. That's how it works. Mustache is all the important. That's why I grow one, so you don't know who I am.
Well, it's kind of
Yeah,
like in
'cause-
Bewitched. Is it blonde hair? Or is it black hair? Same with
Yeah.
same with I Dream of Jeannie. It's like we're going to change one thing and one thing only, and bam, it's a new character.
Well, and remember Star Trek has done this before. We had Mirror
Spock.
Universe. How do you know it's the evil Spock? Because of the
'Cause he's got the
goatee.
goatee.
Yep. Or think about all the times that the evil version of somebody they have the goatee or the eye patch.
Yeah. The eye patch. That's always
The eye-
good. The eye patch.
Yep, the eye patch, Or let's just make
Or
them
the little scar. I mean, you're
Or the
going
scar.
Into,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
going
the
into
scar.
brigade leader, brigadier. You're bringing into Doctor Who there.
Well, no, there's been other times.
I know,
Or,
I know, but that's where
wait,
my mind
we
goes.
had another evil mustache moment. Knight Rider, Garth.
Oh my God! You're
Oh.
How do we know it's evil
Oh.
David Hasselhoff? He's got the mustache.
You mean
If
I'm
it's-
evil? I
What?
have the
Yes.
my mustache. I'm evil. I thought it was just an alternate.
Oh,
version.
so you're.
I'm
Oh,
evil.
okay. So you're. Well, no. If it's an alternate, Mark, come on, Mark. You're a fellow geek. You should know this. If you are an alternate reality version of somebody, and you have a goatee or a mustache, there is the chance that you're the evil version.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think
No,
the other guy was evil.
Yeah.
I think the
No,
clean-shaven Mark was terrible. He was an evil person.
Vicky.
Oh, very
Vicky.
bad.
Vicky. We've
Vicky
got
doesn't know me in
No,
any other
Vicky,
version
Vicky,
but this.
We've got to stop him because he's trying to pull some Futurama stuff in here. Okay, we're talking Star Trek, not Futurama.
Oh, okay.
Oh, come on, have
We're
some
not-
fun.
Where's Fry?
You're Fry. You're the Fry. You're the Fry in this. I'm the Bender, and
You
That
are
means I'm
Bender.
Leela?
You're totally Bender.
yeah. Oh yeah, you're definitely Leela. You are definitely Leela. And actually, no. You know what? Hold on a sec. I
Oh no.
revise. I'm revising. Okay.
Uh-oh.
We don't have a Fry. Mark is Zoidberg.
No.
You
No.
are Zoidberg. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. You are Zoidberg. You are Zoidberg. Why not?
You know, I'm
Mark?
gonna have to put both you guys in the corner here.
Yeah, I think
You
the
can
show-
try.
I think our extra segment's gone out of control. We're going
What?
extra off the deep ends.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Who's weak, Imasabi? I'm fine. I'm
Bender.
fine. I'm in the shallows.
Bender,
I'm in the shallows. I've got my sunglasses on. I'm like, just relaxing. I've got like my back on like the corner of the
I'm
pool. And
twiddling
I'm just,
my evil mustache. Yep.
Oh my
Yipper.
Lord, really?
Yippers. Yippers.
Okay, Vicky, can you guys get us back on track?
Please, Vicky.
Okay, let's see. Where were we?
Get us back on track.
So long ago.
I think
In
we
a
talked. We
galaxy
talked.
far,
Okay,
far
we
away.
talked.
Did that already.
Yeah,
Did
we
it
talked.
already.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know we mentioned George
Well, I'm going
Samuel.
back to the fairy tale.
Oh,
I'm just
no,
gonna
no.
skip and go back.
Oh,
to
the fairy tale. Oh, the fairy tale episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah. Please, the fairy tale. I love
Elysian.
that.
Kingdom of Elysian.
Yeah, I love that. Although
that
I gotta.
was fabulous. It was like a
Oh.
holodeck accident without a holodeck.
Although, dang it, how many were just heartbroken at the end?
Oh, it was. It was so
hard-
sad.
You know what?
But
It
I
was
love
sad.
that she came back
Yes.
and she
See,
talked to him.
that's one of the things. It's like you're heartbroken because Mbenga had to separate from his daughter,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but then you have the adult version of the daughter show up and be like, "Oh yeah, Dad, I'm great." So it's like you're sitting there, you're just like, "I'm not crying," and then it's like, "Oh, there she is. Oh, that's so sweet," and you're crying again. It's like.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like you're just there with the box of you put the box of tissues down, then you have to grab it again, and it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna hug this. I'm just
You
gonna hug
don't
this.
even have to be
for the
a
rest-
parent to
Yeah.
feel the angst that you know. And here we have a doctor who can't
Yeah.
cure his own child.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's horrible, and he's been utilizing the pattern buffers in the transporter and just trying to find a way to make it work. And it felt like for half a moment in the earlier episode where maybe he had a solution
Mm-hmm.
from the planet that puts the kid in the giant battery.
Ugh,
And,
yeah.
Yeah, that one was like, oh my God, that's awful. But, you thought he had an answer, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And it just breaks your heart. And then here you have this other creature trying to help them live a story and trying to help them. I mean, if he had not lived through that story, would he have been able to give up his daughter? Would he have been able to set her free? I feel like he needed to go through that journey, as so many characters do. They have to go through their journey arc to be able to let something go, to be able to move on and move forward. And now that his daughter is in a significantly better situation, he can go on and contribute and not be weighed down by what was a horrible secret. And now there's this freedom and this joy, and yay.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention the fact that he doesn't have to freak out every time that auxiliary power is cut.
That is
it's
true.
like, oh man, it's like, oh man, no, they're cutting auxiliary power.
And it was so cool that Hemmer was the only one who knew that it was all fake. That was so cool.
I think it helps.
His
Well,
magician abilities were amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, and I had to laugh at like Pike. Pike being like this kind of cowardly subordinate, which I wonder, did Mbenga like tell everybody like what happened? Once reality was restored.
What did he tell people afterwards?
Yeah. Well, because
we didn't even remember.
Well, and we had Una was like this, kind of forest elf, archer badass, and then poor Ortega. Was it Ortega that had the little puppy?
Yes. No,
Ortega was the one that. No, wait.
Ortega. Ortega. No.
Who was the?
No, it was Noonian.
It was Noonian.
It was Noonian. Yeah, I just. Oh yeah. I was Noonian. I just kind of have to wonder. If Mbenga told everybody, what they were assigned in this, this reality, I just have to wonder what did Noonian think? It's like, wait, they gave, this weird force made me that? What? Is she like all set to be like, is
there are no pictures, okay?
Yeah, or she's like heading towards the torpedo room, and it's like, so can we just like nuke part of it and make sure it doesn't hurt your daughter, because I'm kind of mad here. It's like, I'm a little mad. Why am I the ditz?
What's great is that was both one of the most lighthearted episodes we got of the 10, but it was also the most poignant.
Yes, it's like you're laughing, and then all of a sudden it's like,
and I agree with you. I was a couple tissues into that ending too.
Yeah.
But again, fabulous writing.
The whole series
feel like they got some of the
yeah.
best writers you possibly could.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the fact that Will Wheaton brought them onto the Ready Room, and he would talk to them.
I gotta watch the Ready Room.
And you know what? And it's like,
really do.
Yeah, but you also like you brought up the episode before the fairy tale, where we had where we had this whole thing of the kid, and then the kid gets plugged into the machine, and and of course how Pike is just like shocked, and then his old squeeze is just like, well, we kind of have to do this. That one, that felt a lot like that is, I also think, a perfect example of how this is this great marriage of the classic Trek and new Trek.
Yeah,
because I mean, let's be honest here. Let's just be totally honest. If this had been an episode in the original series, or in Next Gen, or like early Deep Space Nine, let's be honest, Picard, Kirk, whomever would have found a way to not have the kid be like plugged in as a battery. There would have been this whole thing where it's like, you don't have to do this. Maybe if we do this, this will, help, I'm going to have Scotty, or I'm going to have...
isn't a
right.
happy ending. Sometimes there isn't a way to save the person in distress.
Yeah, but the fact that the fact is that if this had been an earlier episode, there would have been kind of this whole sort of happy ending thing or something. But the fact that they left it like this, and and we have Pike basically feeling like he can't look at that the ruler of the planet. He can't look at her the same way again.
Now, I have to tell you, in some of my reading and researching, this was actually a script by Roddenberry that he did not use in the original series.
Really?
Well, it's based on it. And so, which, I could kind of feel it, because there were those feelings of, when you had episodes with the haves and the have-nots, it had that feeling to it, that you had people on an outer moon that were rejecting everything that they were on the prime planet, because the prime planet was clearly not inhabitable unless you put a kid into a battery. How did they ever figure that out? It's like, here, let's shove you. No, you don't work. Oh, look, kids work fine. Okay.
Yeah, I think well, I do think like the implication, I'm trying to remember exactly, but I think it's like they tried with others, and it's like, it's like, okay, well, kids, younger, more energy, and I'm sure I'm sure that the AI that will become the Matrix is watching this episode and going, really? We didn't think about that. Okay, mark that down. Unit 00.02. Put mark that down for future reference. Yeah,
but it was an amazing episode, and I kind of had the feeling that the first servant, it just, you felt that there had to be something darker. You just knew it, because everything was too perfect. And anytime in Star Trek something is too perfect, it can't be. There has to be the ugly underbelly. There has to be the miners being affected by the gas. There has to be somebody is suffering so that you guys have a perfect life.
Yep. Or of course, there's the perfect planet, and it turns out that even minor offenses are punishable by death.
Right. And it just kind of, that's one of the things that again made it such a good episode, because it felt familiar. It felt similar. You definitely felt it in the Star Trek universe, and then it had that twist that you weren't quite expecting, but sort of. You knew something was going to happen. Not quite that way. When they first kind of pan over and you see it's got a child-sized seat in there, and they're pulling out the dead one, and you're like, whoa!
Wait a minute. Hold it. Yeah. Wait a minute. We didn't sign up for. Wait a minute. This is not what we signed up for here.
No, not what you were expecting.
Not at all.
Yeah.
At all. And I appreciate that, because it's so hard to be surprised these days. It's so hard. We're so used to not getting something fresh and new, and still somehow they're able to make this familiarity that I did not see.
Well, it's also
really
like there's
working this way.
Yeah. Well, there's also like the thing where to kind of the movie The Professional, there's that line, no, we mean no kids.
Yeah.
You're not expecting to see a Star Trek episode or a lot of TV where it's like, oh yeah, and the implication is this child is going to be a battery for the rest of its life and just die like that.
Right.
That's not something you go in and you're thinking, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to be watching. So,
and the fact that it happens.
Well, yeah, like we already, like we said, it happens. It, there's nothing that stops it.
No, right.
Pike doesn't. It happens, and it's something that is just like you'd expect this from something that basically wears on its sleeve, that it's edgy.
Maybe this proves that Strange New Worlds is an adult program. It's not.
Yes.
It's a mature program. It's for people who are Star Trek
and
fans.
it's still Trek. It's just we are getting
Well, kind of like Picard. All the Paramount Plus
Yes.
shows, except for Lower Decks and Prodigy, seem to be pushing the envelope for over 15, 18 viewership.
Yeah.
It seems the demographics for these shows are much higher than.
Yeah.
And actually, the original Star Trek, the Star Trek series before were meant for adults. If you think about it, Star Trek, the original series, I think had a lot of people watching it who were adults. Yes, there were.
But a lot of people think sci-fi means kids, which is kind of a funny
this
thing.
Is not.
Well, it's
I would so disagree with that thought because most sci-fi actually is thought-provoking.
Mm-hmm.
Most sci-fi is actually, they've got hidden messages where they're trying to talk about either an injustice or something else, and they found a way to do it without. The original series faced racism several times.
Oh yeah,
it feels kind of hokey, in 2022, but when you think about the censorship rules and what was going on in the country at that time in the late 60s, the fact that they were able to get these shows on the air.
Well, the fact that Roddenberry fought for it, the fact that and plus the other, I think the other thing, one thing though I think is that there's this even in 2022, there's this mentality where, okay, if it's science fiction or fantasy and it has certain elements, with Trek, we've got starships and we've got phasers and we've got aliens, but there's this mentality that because of the fact that we've got starships and they have laser guns and stuff like that, that it is not, that automatically it's less of a thing.
Yeah.
Because we have those fanciful elements. And then we have stuff like, the same thing happens in animation, where because it's animation, we can just look down on it, except for maybe one or two instances. It's just, it's like, oh, it's a little cartoon. Oh, okay. Or comics, same thing.
Yeah. And talking about that, I have to make a correction for what I just said before. I was saying the shows on Paramount Plus were more mature, except for, how do I put Lower Decks in the except for? Lower Decks is more mature than any of the programs that were just mentioned.
It is a mature, immature show.
Immature, yeah.
There you go. You know what? I like.
It's Star Trek South Park.
Well,
and Family Guy. Star Trek Family Guy.
You know what? And even then, but even then, going to the point I've been trying to make, even then saying that, it's I think honestly sometimes the mature label.
Yeah.
There's two ways that the mature label I think gets used a little too much.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And number one, it gets used as sort of a put down.
Right.
Or something.
That's not
where it's
You're
something, where it's like, oh, this is more mature than this. Oh, this, this little science fiction thing is so much more mature than your little show with the telephone booth. Oh, this is,
Oscar the Great Poupon with that accent. What the heck?
Yeah. Well, you get what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
We gotcha.
Then, but then you also have the mature label gets, I think, mislabeled because it's like, oh, we're able to say naughty words and we're able to have naughty body parts and we're able to,
like The Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's mature like Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, because mature like Star Trek gets ignored because we'll have, some elements like the ray guns and, or stuff like that.
Some people can't reconcile the fact that you can have both.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the problem. That's the problem because, you end up, because like, for example, the reason I bring up, something like South Park or Family Guy or The Boys is that it then it calls itself mature because it's like it has stuff that the kids.
It's just filthy.
Yeah. You know what? Exactly. You got it, Vicky. it basically puts filth as a substitute for real maturity. Like,
yes.
Right.
Like I don't consider something like like when they put a mature viewing tag, I'm like, okay, why is it mature viewing? Because
Yes.
is it mature viewing because it deals with topics and subjects that or is it mature because look, there's a booby?
Yeah.
There's a lady part.
He's talking about birds, folks. He's talking about birds when he says that word. He's
You know
talking
what-
about birds that fly through
But
the air.
anyway,
Yeah.
it's funny because growing up and watching Star Trek with my family, it was it's funny that different things appealed to me at different ages because I started watching.
Yeah.
I mean, we were watching the syndicated series or the syndicated original series from pretty much the moment I was born.
Yep.
But that, then as I got older, and it became this great talking point in my family.
Yeah.
Because, it's like there'd be an episode and you go, well, that's just silly. And then finding out that, from a historical point of view, or even right then and there in our lives, it's like, oh, wow, this means so much more to me now. Or, we moved around a lot, of course, because of military. So something started to make different sense to me as I moved to different areas of the country. And it's like, oh, wow, now I get this. And I think that that's one of the beautiful things about Star Trek. And I feel like this series is the same way, where different ages could like it for different things. But it covers some topics that, especially as an adult, I find very poignant and I love the way they handle it. Everything that they're handling, from relationships to death, to life, to marriage, to what if. I love that because I feel that I may not have a ray gun, but I see this in my real life.
Yeah.
I can relate to these characters. I might not be on a starship, but I understand what Spock's going through. I understand what Pike's going through. I understand Nurse Chapel. These are people like me, and they have real problems, and they have real things that are going on in their lives. And it's one of the things that I have always loved about Star Trek and has moved me. And, I did the same thing to my child that my parents did to me. That boy was watching Star Trek since birth. He actually was in utero when I watched a Star Trek movie. We went and saw a bunch of movies right before I gave birth because I wasn't sure when I was going to go back. So that child was getting Star Trek and Dracula and Frankenstein and a few other things right before he was born. So I made sure he was brought up right. And he enjoys Star Trek to this day for different reasons than when he was a kid and when he was a teenager. And now he's 27 and he's like, wow, this is really good. It's not just fun, it's good.
Oh,
and
yeah. No.
I have to say, when we're talking about the episodes, and we were talking early on about how it was more episodic and each one could stand on their own. And I love how, in a not smacking you over the head with a 2x4, each episode's about a different character.
Yeah.
Una's got an episode, Lana's got a Hemmer, Spock, everyone's got an Uhura. Yep. Oh my God, that was an amazing episode. And it just, so you get these ongoing arcs, you get these great stories, and we delve so deep. It's like, oh, we're going to learn so much about Uhura in this episode. And again, it's not with a 2x4. It's not like smacking you around. It's like, this is the Uhura episode. Watch and learn.
Yep.
It's not.
Oh, and by the way, one thing I would love for them to do is maybe like in a future episode.
Yeah.
Ortega is talking to like maybe some crew member, and it's like, oh yeah, don't forget to wear your formal wear when you're in Pike's when you go to dinner in Pike's quarters, and then just have Uhura just like come up from behind and be like, "Don't believe her," and then Ortega just kind of look at her like, "Come on, it's tradition."
No, we're not going to do that anymore. No more hazing.
Yeah, no more of that. Because come on, you got to admit that would probably be hilarious to just call back
and you
to
think
that.
about it, in many military situations, you'd go in your dress blues or your dress whites, whatever military it is. If you're going to go have dinner with your CO, you're certainly not going to. But he's so relaxed, and I just loved it. Him are sitting there cutting up vegetables, and people are helping. And again, we go back to Spock doing dishes. It just talk about making these characters real people. Yep. I could picture that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could also pick Spock just like taking forever to do the dishes because he'll just be like, logically, if we want to logically, if we want to maximize the cleaning power, we should stack them this way and this way. It's like Spock.
He's right. He's right. You should.
It would happen.
Or just having
So what do we think is going to happen in season 2? We got a little bit of a hint.
Well, let's talk about Una.
Yes.
Yeah. No, the whole
because she's arrested. The reason she's arrested, the genetically modified, right? Genetically. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't she want to quit Starfleet to avoid this? And Pike was the one who convinced her to stay on. It's Pike's fault. It's Pike's fault.
Well, here's the. You know what? It's
totally
funny.
It totally is.
But here's the thing, because somebody on Facebook brought this question up. I think it was on a Star Trek group.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it that ratted Luna? How did Starfleet find out about Una?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's the question. How did they find out that she was an Illyrian?
Wow.
Yeah,
brings up. It means it's like who tattled. There are a lot of there were a lot of theories. One theory said that Una herself actually just kind of leaked the information.
I don't see that.
Some are saying maybe there was something in Pike's log that gave it away. It's
maybe one of the other crew members is a traitor, and we'll find that out in season 2.
Well, I don't know.
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting, but on the other hand, it's also okay, where's the is it somebody who was a plant and this is a revenge scheme? Okay. The other thing is I could just see it as something where it's not so much some sort of malevolent conspiracy.
I have an idea. I have this great idea.
Okay.
Because we know she's supposed to be good, because we've seen her on TOS, Uhura did it. She did it, and something, she'll be redeemed in season 2 or 3, but she was the one, because we already know who she is. You can't change her arc. So let's change it a little. Let's change her to not being such a nice person.
No.
That would be a shock. That would be shock. That would be a shock.
That would be a shock, but it would not.
But it doesn't. What would her motivation be?
Well, what would her motivation be?
We have to learn that. I don't have her motivation yet. I didn't write.
Yeah, see, that's no.
I'm just coming up with what they could be thinking because they
that could
want
be
to change it up.
One of the most shocking.
It could be shocking, but it needs to. I think the only way it could work.
They have an idea. Maybe they have a good storyline for it.
I'm sure they do, and we're all going to be.
Well, I'm not coming up with that storyline for them.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. I mean, I think
bucks.
The thing with Uhura being the one to do it would be that there would have to be a reason, not I could I could see what you're thinking working.
Mm-hmm.
But in the sense that it works only if there's a the reason would have to not be rooted in maliciousness.
Okay, she picked up a message. She heard a communication, and because she's a good Starfleet officer, she reported it.
No.
No. All right.
Yeah,
I-
well,
I can
or so
You have me.
picture-
You
what I
have
think-
me writing the show now. You have me
Okay,
writing
well,
the show
no,
now.
no, I'm just saying, no. It's not having you write the show. It's you have you have an idea, but what is that idea? Like if you have an idea, you got to follow it up. It's not just
I'm
throwing
just saying
picking a name out of a hat.
No, I'm not picking a name out of the hat. I gave you a reason because we know
Okay.
that she's
Yeah.
good, and maybe they're doing a twist, so we don't know the character we think we know,
And
at
there
least
have
at
been
this
times
point, because
that
we don't know that.
characters have done something out of a sense of duty
Mhm.
that was wrong,
Yeah.
but they don't realize it's wrong until afterwards, and
Yes.
that is definitely a possibility.
Well, I
of a
could
couple
also
different
see-
characters.
Well, what I could see it if it was Uhura,
Mhm.
I could see it happening where it's not so much what you were saying that she picked up a communication, that she may have found a discrepancy
Okay. Well. Okay.
and just noted the discrepancy. Like it didn't specifically like call out
Right.
the fact that Una was an Illyrian.
Hmm.
It simply was just a discrepancy. She noted it, like she made a log noting it, and then what happened was somebody, up the chain heard, somebody up the
I could also
chain
picture
saw it.
being an accidental.
Okay. But
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
my-
Well,
okay.
well, see,
you
that's the
basically
thing.
explained my vote. You've explained my vote. That's my vote for who did it. What do you?
Okay, I would say, you know what? I wouldn't be
You
surprised
wrote the
if
script for
it-
me. Thank you.
Okay,
I got him to write it for me. Thank you.
well,
You
because
didn't-
you
you
didn't.
didn't-
Well,
you
because you
didn't-
didn't. You didn't stretch things out, dude. You gotta like.
I didn't
if you're
want
gonna,
to. I didn't
Okay,
get
well,
paid for
well,
it.
you know what?
got-
Well, you know what? Remember, you're talking to a teacher here. If you're going to say, well, I think
Oh.
this, in front of me, then you better be prepared to really explain your answer.
But I let you
Well,
explain it
here's
for
the
me.
thing.
That was
Yeah,
easy.
which means
Even
I
though-
you get.
manipulated
though
you to give me the
Una
answer.
deleted her log. She did that wonderful speech at the end, and then she deletes the entire log.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's being recorded
Yes.
in some way or another on the Enterprise.
Hmm.
Even when she's talking to the doctor in Nurse Chapel, there's going to be a record somewhere in there of how they solved it. But somewhere there's going to be a clue. And it's going to be something like they forgot to scrub one record somewhere.
Even if you delete something, it's not completely deleted. You should know that
Well,
from your
there's
own
that too.
computers. So
Yeah.
That is
she
true.
So okay, good. I'm
So
I'm feeling
somewhere
good.
I'm feeling that there is an accidental reveal
Okay.
Yeah.
because it's hard. She's spent all this time hiding it.
Hmm.
It makes sense that there's going to be a breadcrumb trail somewhere. When you
Yeah.
think about, now she is not a spy. She's actually doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
But when you think about the way that some spies have operated over the years, a lot of times when you look backwards, you can see that breadcrumb trail that wasn't as obvious, but it only takes that one kernel that gets to the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong hands, and everything unravels. I suspect it's going to be something along those lines.
Okay. How about Spock, because he found out and he's doing his duty and being logical and reported it.
No, because Spock's human half
I
would
know.
win that one
I
out.
know. I was just throwing something else out. I still think it's Uhura.
It'll be interesting to see, and I can't wait to see where it goes next.
Yeah.
And I do hope that this will be one of those stories that ends well, because although it would explain what happens to number one,
Mhm.
and why we never see her again, unfortunately. I would love to see this character stay.
Mhm. Me too.
And it's all these characters are good. I mean, when we lost Hemmer, it's like we can't lose another one. It's too soon.
Of course,
Um,
La'an was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a little break to help this kid out.
That made me so
I'll be back." Yeah.
sad,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
happy
But
too
the
in
door-
a weird sort of way.
Well, Well, one thing though, I mean, it does, it leaves the door open for her to come back. She's just like, look, I'm gonna chill for a few months. I mean, there's heck, in in season 2, episode 1, we could have her coming back and being like, hey, I took care of that kid. What did I miss?
Yeah.
Oh,
And by the way, something we haven't mentioned.
uh-huh.
While they did not get an appearance,
Right.
we did have another original series character make their presence known.
Who?
Who, pray tell?
Oh, I know. Would that be Scotty?
That
Yes.
would be
Oh,
Scotty.
I heard Scotty. Yeah.
Scotty, yeah, we heard him. We heard his
We heard
voice.
him.
We didn't,
That was such a nice
Okay.
little switch.
Oh yeah, that was great. To me, I mean, that does bring up, a thing. It's like, was that just an Easter egg, or is our friend, Mr.
Gonna show
Scott,
up?
going to be
Well,
showing
don't
up?
forget that at that point, Scotty would be the chief engineer. It's 7 years later, but does
Yep.
he replace Hemmer, or is there another one in between?
Good question. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that is a good.
That's
Yeah, that is a good
question.
one. Yeah, that is a good one. I mean, it would be interesting maybe to do a little thing where it's like, maybe not have, you don't have to have Scotty coming in like, right off the bat,
Yeah.
but there's nothing to say that you can't have like a moment, maybe somewhere like an episode like, oh, we've got a new chief engineer. We had to go through a couple of candidates. There was one. I don't think he's just a fresh lieutenant, but he seems to be a miracle worker.
Yeah, you go.
One day he might. Yeah, one day he'll probably be a great chief engineer one day. Just drop like that. Just like, okay, yeah, Scotty's around. It's not his time to shine yet.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Patel was the name of of Pike's girlfriend and the one that arrested Una, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the 7 years in the future, when she gets off the Farragut and she hugs him, and there's like a comment made that something bad happened between them, and I'm thinking they broke up, and I'm thinking that happened because of Una.
because of this.
So in season 2, they're going to be apart. Now, whether they get
Yeah.
back together or not is something that didn't happen in the 7 years in the future, but could happen. But the butterfly didn't. But I find that is an interesting plot point for season 2, not just the Una story, but the Pike Patel story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it goes to everything else, is that
Yeah.
one little change.
Yes.
Just it's amazing how many ripples you have.
Mm-hmm.
But the good news is that if they keep the writing this good and the acting this good, we can go all the way up to when Pike dies.
Well, let's have
I'm
the
fine with
let's
that.
have the
Pike. Well, not
Well,
Pike
not
dies.
dies.
But yeah, well,
gets
Maimed?
severely hurt.
yeah. When his injuries come in. Yeah.
Well, let's
no,
at
it was-
least get
Yes.
the 5-year mission. Let's at least get the 5-year mission. We don't.
would
I
be
mean,
so
the other
cool.
year and a half would be gravy, but at least get the 5-year mission.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Well,
then we
Second
can do a
five-year
big
mission.
finale where we see him go back to the planet and gets transformed from being maimed to being back to being Captain
Yeah.
Pike.
Well, what would be interesting? Well, what would be interesting for a finale,
Mhm.
if they want to do that, is maybe, what would be cool, I think, is you just come up like, you just have like the last thing we see with Pike is his promotion,
Right.
his fleet captain promotion,
Ah,
and somebody's just like, and then whoever gives him the fleet, the promotion is like, oh, we want you to be stationed here, wherever the accent's supposed to be.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then, Pike just kind of has this look on his face, like maybe he has one last conversation with Una or somebody else. And he just kind of does like this, well, if this is the way it's got to be, it's got to be, like he just kind of shrugs, and it's like, well, I got to do what,
yeah.
I'm kind of set on this
Man's gotta
course.
do what a man's gotta do.
No, no.
You You brought up Nathan Fillion before. I'm just
no,
saying.
no, I'm not, dude. I'm trying to do this poignant moment. You killed it. You killed it. It's dead, Jim.
Thank you. Okay, I finally got that out of you. I've been waiting for you to Okay. I've been waiting for some Star Trek lines. Thank you.
Well, because it's all about you, what you want.
God, I love you guys.
Yeah.
It's all about what you want.
Well, thank you.
It's not about what anybody else wants.
I appreciate you're acknowledging that, Ed. I really appreciate that.
All right, God,
back to your poignancy. Go for
it. Anyway.
Go back to your poignancy. We're listening.
The moment has passed.
It passed. You killed it. It's dead.
I'm sorry, Ed. I didn't mean to
it's totally dead. Yeah, no, it's dead.
I didn't mean to mess up your soliloquy.
Listen,
I'm sorry.
You did.
Whatever happens in season 2, I can't wait. And I hope they're working on it today because I want to see it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to go back and rewatch this because now that I have had, I watched it, I did the Ready Room, I did some research. Now I want to go back and watch everything again, see what I missed. But, I just have to thank everyone involved with this series for giving this fangirl what she wanted.
And this fanboy. Yeah. I got everything I wanted out of this show and more. Yes. I really, really love this. I love Picard, but I love this more. Discovery's good. I love this more. Lower Decks. I love this more. Prodigy. Oh, how could you not love this more?
Ouch!
No.
Ow!
You know, Prodigy was for younger kids, and maybe I didn't get into it for that reason. I did like Janeway in it, and at the end, and the fact that Chakotay died, I just spoiler. But
thanks a lot.
Ouch! Just bleep that later, Mark.
No, we don't bleep this unless you say bleep or booby. Then you bleep it.
Wait, so you're not gonna bleep the spoiler, but you're gonna bleep the word booby.
No, not unless I say I can stop the bleep by saying we're talking about birds.
What? Oh, come on, dude!
I think on that note,
and on that note, exactly, Vicky. On that note, we're gonna close our show.
Oh, brother!
Thank you all for coming along and listening to the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast on our website, markwho42.com, Florida Geek Scene, Geekcast Radio Network, and all around the interweb thingy like Audible, iTunes, Google Play, all those places. We are all over the place. I am Mark Baumgarten. With me were Eduardo M. Freyre and Vicky Jakubowski, talking all about Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Come back next week where we will have another show for you. We like having shows for you all the time, and we will. Until next time, any final words?
Yeah, I just can't wait for the spinoff, the Star Trek spinoff, which is basically McCoy semi-retired before the motion picture, just basically ragging on kids and going, "Get off my lawn! Damn it, Jim, I'm retired! Buzz off!"
Wow. I was just going to say, live long and prosper, everyone.
Okay.
And you know what? Or you know what? Actually, better spin-off idea. Just have some timey-wimey thing happen, and then have a giant cook-off between Pike, Neelix, Riker, and Ben Sisko.
Yeah,
there you go.
I was going to say you have to have the Cisco because I'm in the mood for some Cajun food. Until next time, so long, everyone. Thanks for listening to Mark Who 42's Universe with hosts Mark Baumgarten, Eduardo M. Freyre, Zion Quiros, and Vicky Jakubowski. This program was produced and directed by Mark Baumgarten. If you love to get in touch with us. Please go to our Facebook page or email us at markwho42s.universe@gmail.com. You can listen to old shows at our website, markwho42.com, or even our YouTube page, markwho42.
Mark Who 42's Universe, copyright 2022.